Hello, everybody out there in the YouTube land. I'm Goemon Ronin, at least that's my handle, and I am coming to you from my local hotspot location here. And I wanted to do I thought of a video to do and wrote down some points. And this is just, I was talking with my dad yesterday and I realized that I haven't actually been single a lot of my life. Some of it, certainly, but not a huge amount of it. So this is just 10 things about being single that I'm kind of having to get used to, or perhaps didn't realize again. It looks like I might have a power issue, guys, so give me just one moment. Alright guys, sorry, I had to kind of move things around a little bit there to get my notebook plugged in. Alright, so let's just hope everything's working like it should be. So, this isn't in any particular order or anything like that. It is just a list. So, you might, in the current state of your separation, divorce, or breakup, think that you weren't getting a whole lot of help in your relationship, but you will find probably that you are getting at least some, and the lack of that help is going to be very apparent. So just, before you kind of say that to yourself too much, especially if you're the one thinking of perhaps ending your relationship, I mean, really think about what you do get from that person and whether it's worth having it, worth meeting their demands in your life to have that. For a lot of people it might be, and having help in life is sort of important. Number 9, intimacy. I am kind of at an age where if I get an intimate encounter, 6 to say 12 times a month, I'm pretty happy. I'm just kind of at the age where I've got a lot going on and in my head, and just that's not at the forefront as much as it used to be when I was younger. But I do find that now that I'm not getting any of that, I do quite miss it. So you might think, oh, I can take care of myself or whatever, but you're going to miss whatever level of intimacy you were getting. Whew, it's a little bit chilly in here, guys. Sorry. Sounds like they're air conditioning this part. Okay. Number 8. This kind of relates to number 10, but they probably were responsible for some other duties in your relationship. This, of course, just depends on what everybody's sort of willing to do. But if they were responsible for a certain thing in your relationship, if they're the one that always paid the rent, for example, you're going to have to start doing that, which means you're going to have to get used to talking to your landlord more often when it wasn't your thing before. You're going to have to, there's a number of things you're going to have to adjust probably to doing yourself, even if you thought they weren't significant before, and things like that. You also, just in regards to that, won't have the same ability to kind of divide and conquer if that was something that you were able to do in your relationship. That doesn't necessarily work in every relationship out there, but it can. Dividing and conquering, if your spouse is willing to do it, is a great way to get ahead on all kinds of tasks, from business tasks to household tasks to personal tasks, and then have time for each other later. If dividing and conquering isn't something that you're able to do for your own hang-ups or theirs, then you're going to just end up doing a lot more things together. This can work out. Let's see. Number 7. So you have in-laws, right? And some of those in-laws have likely become your friends, right? And when that relationship is over, now if you're not married and you're just kind of friends with her family, there can still be some awkwardness and everything. But I assume, having gone through that a couple of times now, it's a bit less awkward than actually being married. I'm pretty good friends with a couple of my in-laws, and it just doesn't seem appropriate to communicate with them on a personal level anymore, from where I sit, especially with Facebook and everything these days. Most of those conversations aren't really private anyway, so that is what it is. Not really sure what to do there. I am struggling with that myself. I don't know. I kind of feel like these days, if they haven't unfriended you on Facebook, you're probably okay to still communicate some, where it's appropriate. For example, I hadn't met my newest niece before all of this kind of went down, and I finally got to see a picture of her online. I congratulated my brother and sister-in-law and everything like that, and that felt like something I should be able to do without much trouble. There was a thank you sent back my way. That all seemed to work out okay. But I've had some other issues where it hasn't exactly worked out that way. I've been a little hurt and frustrated in this thing, so I realize I may not always be making the most logical and rational decisions along the way. I'm trying to, keep that stuff in check. But I guess you're just going to have to play that stuff by ear, and I assume that probably you're going to be unfriended here and there and stuff like that on social media and what have you. So you're just going to have to kind of play that. You always see in movies and everything that the mom stays friends with the ex-husband after her daughter gets divorced and everything, and they do stuff and everything like that. And I don't know, maybe that's realistic here and there, but I don't think for the most part that that's something most people would do. It just makes things awkward like it usually does in those movies. Number 6, old habits, they really do die pretty hard. Sometimes my soon-to-be ex used to call me every day. She used to call me throughout the day. I used to call her and see how she's doing and everything like that. Even up to a couple months before things were going to be done, we were communicating on a fairly regular basis, although that was starting to dwindle some. And I've gotten very used to communicating with her in that regard, and have just found it very difficult to not accidentally call her or something like that. It's been very difficult to find something to do with yourself that doesn't involve that other person like it did for the last decade or 7 or however many years it was. I mean, you can generally do it, but I think you need to resist communicating, you know, with your ex if you haven't been welcome to do so. And if you have been welcome to do so, then the relationship hasn't ended like you think it has. 5, I am feeling, in regards to all these other things, overwhelmed a lot. I felt overwhelmed a lot of times while I was in my relationship, and out of it, it's about 25% worse. I'm going through some pretty serious health related issues right now that I'm receiving some treatment for. These are the things that it's nice to have someone else in your life to help with. I've had some family help me out here and there, and that's turned out to be sufficient. I'm gradually getting used to things. I think that it'll all work out. This kind of also goes into number 4, in that certain decisions are going to be back on your plate that SO handled before. Like I said, if they always were the ones to pay the rent and decided how it was going to get paid, now that's kind of on you, and you have to sort of rethink a system for it, and occasionally have your landlord not real happy with you because things aren't going as smoothly as they were before. Can be a little frustrating at times. Number 3, the thought of being with someone else, especially like, you know, when you're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, can feel very daunting. It feels very daunting. Feels like you've done it a lot, and there's just not yeah, it's just not something that you can even cope with, I think, right away. I think that's why a lot of people take some time for themselves after a breakup to just sort of kind of try and figure out who you are, because your personality has been so dependent upon that other person that they've kind of influenced who you are, and you need a little time to figure out yourself again. The older you are, the easier that gets, I think. So number 2, depending on your relationship, yes. So for me, when this all went down, it was sort of like waking from a dream, because we were going to be moving. So none of her things were in the house. Hardly any of my things were in the house. It was just some of my stuff at that point. I just had enough in there to live. But when the hammer dropped and we weren't going to be a couple anymore, and the trading of personal items and all that started going down, and she finally had most of her things and I had most of mine, I sat around and looked at my place, and it was really pretty sad, because there was literally nothing of hers left. Except for Joe and Ginny, our pets. They are the only reminders that she was ever part of my life at this point. And, you know, I had one of those relationships that I can almost, you know, remember, like the majority of. And it's very odd, because there's just nothing of her left in my life now. And it's almost like I woke up from a dream. Number 1, and I don't mean to be mean by saying this to anyone, it is just simply a fact. I'm sure my ex, she's pretty much told me she feels this way. Being single is just kind of better in a lot of ways. The amount of freedoms you have and everything like that is much more apparent. The amount of control you have over your own life is much more apparent. You're responsible for more of it, but at the same time, things just are easier to manage, and a lot of times you'll find that that SO was maybe in the way of some of your goals, or was even holding you both back as a couple and didn't even realize they were doing it. So let's call that 10 things I've had to relearn about being single. I hope that that was useful.